Alright, this is a video to help players prepare for Little Armies CanCon 2023. Ian and I are going to run through the start of a game between Safavid. How are you, Ian?
Oh, I'm doing well.
So, start a game. We prepared these wonderful reference sheets, which can be printed off or supplied to you at the competition, and we are going to run through the steps that are outlined on the first page of that sheet. So, right, first things first, we have to nominate a season. We've got it to be written down on our battle sheets. I'm going to attack you in winter.
And I'm going to nominate summer.
Right, the Mongols are an aggression of 3.
And the Persians are an aggression of 2.
Yep. So we roll our dice now to determine who is the attacker and who's the invader and defender. So,
and I believe I will be the attacker.
So the Persians are the attackers, and we write down the dice scores because they become important later for determining weather. You don't know the weather until the first turn of the game. Now that you know that the Mongols are the defenders, I'm just going to show Ian my list of terrain, which is pretty sparse as the Mongolians and includes a river, a hill steep, a wood, dunes and rough going. That is it.
And now I'm going to choose some of those.
Yep, and we write down what terrain types on the battle sheet without showing the other person. When writing down your terrain, you only have to write down the type, not how many of them you're taking or how big they are or anything like that, just the type. So, Anne, what have you chosen?
I've chosen a hill steep and a rough going.
And I've chosen a wood. So, we'll go get our terrain.
Here's a hill steep I prepared earlier. And a rough going.
And we'll remove these off.
Because they're not needed this time.
And I've chosen a wood.
Now we should probably swap sides of the table.
We should. So, for our table, we've drawn the deployment areas on them in red so you can see the difference between the attacker and the defender. The larger deployment area is the defender and the smaller one is the attacker. The defender can deploy up to 54 centimetres from their baseline and 48 centimetres from the edge. The attacker can deploy 30 centimetres from their baseline and again 48 centimetres from their edge. So because Ian is the attacker, he's attacking me in summer. And because I'm the defender, I get to choose north. And real north is that way towards the camera, so that will be north. Then the next step is we've got to determine the time, which is to add up the 2 scores of the raw dice. So what's that?
8.
So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And next we place terrain.
That's right. Now we need to know which side is which, Stuart, as far as the dice is concerned.
Okay. So the side to the left of the defender and right of the invader is
1, followed by 2, 3, and the defender's side is 4.
So now I choose as the defender the next side, and I'm going to choose your side as 5.
That's 5, and then I'm going to choose south, or 1, as 6.
Okay. So now there's an order that terrain gets placed in, and the first type of terrain that gets placed is a waterway. We don't have any of those. No one's chosen those. What's the next one? Rivers.
Rivers.
The next type of terrain to be placed. And then the third one is hill steeps. I think
That's right. I have a hill steep.
Okay, so dice away.
So first of all, I have to dice for the side. In this case, 6, which is this one. Next up will be the distance from the edge. 2.
So for the first area feature, it has to be within the distance of the edge. For each one after that, they have to be further away from each other than the distance shown on the dice.
And it has to be closer to your rolled side than any other.
So that's where you're putting your hill?
That's where I'm putting my hill.
Excellent.
Now,
Next type of terrain?
would be other types of hills or gentle hills, followed by roads, built-up areas, fields, and the rest of the terrain chosen by the invader.
So you can choose to put woods first or rough goings first.
Well, I'm already half done, so I'm going to choose to go with rough going. Now, I'm going to roll for a side. This time I've rolled a 1, which is again up this end. Now I have to roll for a distance, and that is the distance it must be away from the terrain I have already placed. A 1 gives me a lot of freedom, and as it only needs to be half of this distance away, I'm instead going to place it here, closer to this edge than this edge.
Okay, now my wood. So I'll roll the red dice for the side, and it's going to be the 6 as well. Six as well. And it has to be at least one away from it.
Now, Stuart may run into a problem here, where his wood is quite large, and it might not fit. We shall see.
You pass me tape measure. So it has to be closer to one edge than the other. So that's 38, and that's
37.
So I've got to manoeuvre it around to try and make it fit if I can.
Maintaining
Otherwise, it's going to end up in a corner. If a piece of terrain doesn't fit, then it doesn't get put on, gets discarded. So that we've now placed our terrain. The next step is for the defender to place all their baggage. Do you have any baggage, Ian?
Ah, I do, but I'm not the defender.
Oh, I am. I don't have any baggage. Now the invader gets to place it.
Brilliant. I have 2 baggage.
Okay. Now, the next step before we deploy our armies is to draw a rough map or a description of where your commands are going to be placed. If you're ambushing, this is the time to draw a map with your ambushes on them, and you can ambush anywhere up to the edge of your deployment area, which can be outside of the deployment area on the sides. Alright, so now the next step is for the defender to deploy his army. Can you pass me the figures?
Absolutely. Here's an army that Stuart prepared earlier.
So the defender deploys his entire army first, which is very upsetting because Ian gets to see where I put all my figures and try and line me up. Luckily for me, my map simply says left, centre and right, and my commands are all identical.
This makes the setup much easier.
It does.
Unless you've got 73 bases.
So, and there are my Mongols. There you go. So when you're deploying your commands, you have to be able to draw a box or a square around them, and your commands can't intermingle on deployment. So Ian, there's one command.
Yep.
There's another one.
Yep.
And there's another one.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right.
Your
Now,
turn.
My turn to place down my command. I only have 2 commands. And then my larger command.
So one of the advantages of being the attacker is you get to deploy second. If your orders for your commands are simply, in Ian's case, left and right, it means that he can manoeuvre his deployment to line up against troops that he know he'll get an advantage of against, given he'll be moving first.
Right.
Okay, so now we're down to the first turn. Ian is the invader, and we don't have any naval. If there was a waterway, after the armies deploy, any navies deploy. So you don't deploy your navy as part of your army until after all the rest of the land armies are on the table. And the invader actually deploys their navy first and then the defender. So we're down to the first turn, and the invader rolls his first pip dice.
Right. Now, I have 2 commands, so I have 2 pip dice. I have rolled a 5 and a 3.
So we write those down on our battle sheet because the weather is determined by comparing the lowest last dice score for invader defender, so that's a 3.
3.
Versus the second highest dice of the invader's first pips, which is a 3, which gives us a difference of 0.
Which is fine.
Fine, light wind.
Yeah.
Nothing. If we had ships on a bound where the pip score is 2 or less, there becomes no wind and ships face difficult going, but none of us have navies in the middle of the steppe. So it's on to Ian to allocate his command dice to his commands and do his first turn.
Right.